Welcome to another exciting podcast of Royal Oak Victory Church. We're glad you've joined us. We are a community devoted to God, connected to others, and influencing our world.
What an honor it is to always be asked to speak on Sundays at ROVC. And we're so blessed to be part of such an incredible church with great leadership. And I've had the blessing of being on staff now for almost 5.5 years, which seems crazy to me because that's a long time that I've been on staff. And it's amazing. And if you're new and you don't know much about me, there's really only two things you need to know about me. First thing you need to know is that I'm the youth and young adults pastor here at Royal Oak Victory Church. The second thing you need to know about me is that I'm the in-house joke teller. And I'll be honest, I am pretty funny. And so it's just humility when you know who you are, right? And so I got some jokes that literally get people standing clapping. Maybe not for me necessarily, but the jokes that I tell. It's an incredible experience that you guys are about to experience. So I have a couple jokes for you. Why did the Scarecrow win an award? Well, he was outstanding in his field. Oh my goodness. Some of you got it late, but I love that. Yes. Because that's his whole job. That's funny. And then there's this book I've been reading. It's been incredible, and it's on the history of glue. But the hard part is that I can't put it down. Come on. That's so funny. Anyway, thank you for joining me in the joke experience today and participating, even though some of you were like, wow, I really thought he was going to be funny because of how he built himself up. But anyway, in September of 2001, there's an event that changed the course of history. Most of us remember where we were when these events took place. We remember just what was happening that day in September of 2001. The attacks that took place in the United States that left thousands dead and thousands injured. It was a horrific event that left people confused. It left people scared. We didn't really know what was happening in our world that day in September of 2001. And after the planes had crashed into those buildings, hundreds of planes were forced to divert and land in remote areas because they shut down the airspace for fear that maybe there were other airplanes in the sky that were going to be used. And one of these places was a place in Canada called Gander, Newfoundland. And this place in Gander, it's a small town in Newfoundland that was used as a fueling stop during the First and Second World Wars. And Gander at the time of the attacks had around 10,000 people living in this small community. And on that fateful day in September 2001, 42 planes holding almost 7,000 people were forced to land in Gander that day. So within moments, their population of their town almost doubled in size, in moments. And I can't imagine the confusion. You hear on the news, you're watching the TV, and you see planes hitting buildings, and then you look outside and plane after plane after plane is landing in your town. I can imagine there was some fear. There was confusion. What is happening? I remember myself, and I was young, but I remember being confused as what was happening in our world. I can't imagine seeing 42 planes land at a small airport in a small community. 42 planes, almost 7,000 people. Again, their town had almost doubled in size overnight. There's some stats about it, but apparently some of these airplanes, some people were forced to stay on their airplanes for almost 18 hours. Just on the runway in Gander, just waiting to see what was happening. They had no clue what was happening in those moments, but they were forced to stay on the airplanes. So what the town did is the town quickly came together and set up the schools as housing sites. They gathered all the supplies that they could to sleep and feed all these people, 7,000 people. These were people coming from different countries. They spoke different languages. They had different religions. They lived different lifestyles. Yet this community came together and supported these people in the midst of chaos. A town that came together and fed and housed 7,000 people for several days until the airspace was reopened. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear that maybe some of the people on these planes, these people now in their community, were people that were going to be used for future attacks. There's so much confusion happening, yet they opened the doors to their town. They opened the doors to their community. They carried the burden of these moments together. They cried together, they laughed together, they celebrated life together, but they also mourned the loss together. They carried the burden of not being able to talk to their loved ones because at the time, 2001, most people didn't have cell phones. So a lot of these people are stuck on planes. They can't even tell their family that they're okay. They can't even see if their family's okay. Some of these pilots saying, I don't know if my fellow pilots are okay. There was no way for them to actually communicate while they're stuck on these planes. And they carried the burden of not being able, again, to talk to their loved ones, to wear their own clothes, because the suitcases they had, they weren't allowed to access them under the plane. They were stuck there for all the time they were there. So all they had with them was what they brought with them on the planes that day. That's all they had when they went to that community. They carried the burden of not being able to know if their children were alive after all that had happened. Carried the burden of everything, all the chaos in that moment. They carried an entire community, carried 7,000 passengers. There's story after story after story that comes from this amazing act of care. People putting their own lives on hold to care for people who didn't know when they were going to go home. They had no clue when they were going to be able to go home, allowing strangers into their houses to shower and to eat meals, inviting strangers into their homes, bringing people they knew nothing about and doing life with them in really intimate settings. Some of these schools were housing hundreds of people. There is power when we put our differences aside and we love people and care for people. There's power in that. To me, this is what care is all about. Loving people even though they're different than us. Caring about people even though they believe differently than us. It's about loving people. That's care to me. Caring for people who aren't even supposed to be in your home. Caring for people who are not supposed to be in your hometown. Caring and loving those people. That's what care is about. Caring for people who are different. View the world different. And I think this is a beautiful representation of who Jesus is. He came to seek and save the lost. He came to take care of the widows and the orphans. To love those who are hard to love. To engage in relationship with sinners. That's why Jesus came. For me and for you. To carry the burdens of humanity. That's why Jesus came, to carry the burdens of humanity. This morning we're going to be talking about what it looks like to carry each other's burdens. And this concept that comes from the book of Galatians chapter 2. So if you have your Bible with you this morning, you can turn to me to Galatians. Galatians is in the Bible, obviously, in what we call the New Testament. You can go there. If you don't have a Bible with you this morning, I want to encourage you to download what's called the YouVersion Bible app. This is an amazing digital Bible that you can get all the translations, so maybe there's a translation you prefer, or maybe English is your second language and it'd be easier for you to follow along in your own language. You can get your own language and it might be easier for you to follow along with me today. But Galatians 6 verse 2, and I'm going to be reading out of the New International Version, and this is what it says. It says, carry each other's burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. You know, I love this verse. There's just so much simplicity to it. To carry one another's burdens. To carry the pain of one another. To carry what we're going through, what we're walking through, what we're struggling with together. Carry our pain, carry our mental health, carry our addiction, carry our trauma. No judgment, no shame, no guilt. Just love and carrying each other's burdens. Just understanding that we are going through things that are hard. Understanding that together we can do more than we can do alone. Understanding we can carry more weight. There's more strength when we fight together. There's more strength when we carry each other up and help each other through life's hardest, toughest moments. When we do this, we fulfill the law of Christ to love people. When we carry the burdens of humanity, that's how we love people. That's how we fulfill the law of Christ to love, to care, is by carrying one another's burdens. We accomplish more by carrying the weight of the world together than we can do on our own. We can carry more together than we can carry on our own. And that's what this community is about. That's what community is about, what connection is about. That's what this church is about. We want to be a community that gathers around the city's most hurting and broken people and carries the burden with them. That's what we want to be about. We want to be about seeing every single person in this place coming together and fighting for one another and carrying the burdens we're all walking through together. That's what we want to be about. Carrying one another's burdens. Bringing people the hope that they're looking for. Bringing them the peace they're desperately searching for. What's amazing is once we come into relationship with Jesus, once we give him our life, we become carriers of peace. We become carriers of hope. We become carriers of joy. And that's what the world is looking for. They're looking for hope. They're looking for peace. You know, we live in a broken, hurting world. And I think this is more evident than ever before how broken and hurting our world is. You know, I go on Facebook and I watch the news, and there's so much confusion in our world right now. There's so many broken people looking for answers. They're looking for hope. They're looking for peace, looking for joy, and no one's there to share joy and hope and peace with them. They're looking for those things in the wrong places. People are looking to you. People are looking for you. When they're looking for peace, they're looking for you because you are a carrier of that peace that they're desperately searching for. If we aren't willing to go carry their burden together, we will get burnt out trying to do life alone. And they will never be able to find the hope they're looking for if we're not willing to go and carry their burden with them. Are you willing to step into people's pain rather than run away from it? You know, this is a tough question to answer. I would love to say, yes, I do that all the time. I'm always willing to step into people's pain and help carry that burden with them. But the reality is I fail all the time. I look at my life and I wonder, how many people have I walked past who are broken and hurting in the city? Because I'm too busy or whatever my excuses might be. How many times do I do this every single day? Jesus did this all the time. He's the best example when it comes to pursuing people's pain and carrying their burden. And there's a story that I love that comes out of the book of Matthew. And it's a story that truly shows Jesus' heart for humanity and why he came to earth. This is Matthew 14, and then it says, or Matthew 14, verse 13. It says, when Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. Now, we see here it says Jesus heard. And what Jesus had heard just before this, he had heard that his friend, his cousin John, had just been beheaded. He had just learned that his friend had just died. And so Jesus, he goes to be alone to remember the life of his friend as well as mourn the loss. And when he goes to be alone to mourn, what happens is the crowds follow him. And he responds with compassion. And I know for me that oftentimes I do not respond with compassion when my world is flipped upside down and people are asking me for help. I know I oftentimes do not respond with compassion. I sometimes respond with anger or bitterness, saying, do you know what I'm going through? Do you understand what I'm walking through? Yet Jesus has compassion, sees that they're sick, and pursues their pain rather than running away. Rather than saying in solitude, he went towards the people. He went towards their pain and said, I'm going to heal you. I'm bringing you the hope you're looking for. I'm bringing you the peace you're looking for. Rather than running away. And I look at my life, how many times do I run away from broken people because I don't know if I can handle it? Yet Jesus pursued their pain. Jesus entered into relationship with people even when it wasn't comfortable. Even when it was hard, even when the crowds were telling him not to, he pursued relationship with people. He pursued pain. He pursued saying, I'm going to bring you the hope you need. I'm going to bring you the love you need. I'm going to bring you the joy that you're desperately looking for. I'm the answer, is what he lived his life to do. He pursued their pain rather than running away and healed their sick. I think this is just amazing. Because I know, again, for me, I would not respond this way typically. But something that I'm absolutely working towards. We need to truly want people to be living in their calling if we want to carry their burdens. If we carry their burdens, that means we want to see them living in the life God created them to live. We will never create the future we're supposed to live in by carrying our burdens alone. You will never live the life you're supposed to live trying to carry everything by yourself. The only way to live the life you're supposed to live, the future you created to live, is by bearing burdens with one another, by being real about what you're walking through. You know, it's so easy for us to get caught up in our own situation. It's so easy for us to get caught up in our own lives, in what's going on, that we forget that other people are going through things as well. It's easy to look at our own life rather than see, wow, like my neighbor is struggling right now. They really need something from me. It's easy to focus on ourselves, but other people are also struggling. And when we come together as a community and as a family and bear the burdens of everyone together, I believe is one of the most beautiful things we can do as a church. When we come together broken and painful, and we come together in that, we find strength in that. Because we're no longer going through life alone. We're going through life with our friends, with our family, with our church, with our community. Then we can overcome any obstacle that comes in the way. Stepping into other people's lives rather than isolating ourselves. Rather than judging from a distance, we enter in and love people face to face. I think sometimes we get so caught up in judging people from afar that we just need to come into a relationship and love people face to face. No matter who they are, we need to love people and carry their burden together. Because this world is broken, this world is hurting, and we have the answer. We have hope inside of us. We have peace inside of us that people are looking for. We need to start loving people properly and bringing them what they're looking for. Carrying their burden. Because they're not supposed to carry that burden alone. We are created as the church to go carry the burden of the world and say, we love you, we care about you, no matter who you are, no matter what you struggle with, no matter what you're walking through, we care. So important. We become stronger when we become one. We become stronger when we're vulnerable. And what's interesting is there's this vulnerable moment Jesus has in his life where he gets help when it comes to carrying his burden. We can read it's the book of Luke chapter 23. Verse 26, and it says, as the soldiers led him away, they seized Simon from Cyrene, who was on his way in from the country, and put the cross on him and made him carry it behind Jesus. Here we see Jesus is carrying his murder weapon. He's carrying the thing that is going to kill him. He's carrying it. And not only is he carrying the weight of that cross, he's also carrying the weight of sin of the entire world. He's carrying humanity's sin on that cross in that moment. He's carrying the burden of humanity on his shoulders. And that is a big burden to have. That's a big burden to take. Yet Jesus does it. Now, there are several ideas as to why they forced Simon to carry the cross. But one reason I believe is that this was one of Jesus' most vulnerable, humiliating moments. You know, he's in so much pain in this moment. And I believe maybe the people that they made Simon carry the cross because maybe Jesus could not have finished the walk by himself. Maybe he wasn't strong enough in that moment. Without him dying first. So they asked someone else to come and help carry that cross. Now we don't know exactly why Jesus got help to carry the cross, but what we do know is that Jesus got help when it came to carrying his pain. Jesus got help when it came to carrying his burden. Jesus got help when it came to carrying that cross. Yet so many times we as individuals try and go through life alone. We try and go through life's most painful moments by ourselves. We try and carry the burden of our family, of our household by ourselves. And I'm telling you, that's a fight you'll never win. You will never win the fight of carrying that burden by yourself. We try so hard to deal with our stuff on our own. We try and deal with our mental health, our debt, our trauma, our abuse, our mourning, our anger, our depression. We try and deal with it all alone. You were not created to carry all the weight of your burdens alone. You're not created to live a life in isolation by yourself, trying to carry all this pain. You were created to carry it in this family, coming together and being real and transparent and vulnerable about what we're actually going through. We were created to come into community, step into other people's lives and carry the burden together. Carry our pain together and carry our joy together. Coming together as a family and carrying the burden of the world together. Vulnerability is key when it comes to relationship and building trust. No one will be able to help you carry the burden you're carrying if you aren't willing to admit you have that burden. We can't expect people to help carry the load, to help us through challenging times, to sit with us in the hospital with our sick child, if we're not willing to share that we're struggling. We can't expect people to be there when we're not willing to say we need help. We need to be real about our pain. We need to be real about how we're feeling. Be real about what's actually going on in our lives. We need to allow other people into our most painful memories, into our most painful moments, to allow freedom and healing to come, to carry that burden together, because you are never alone. I know oftentimes in our society, we're so connected digitally that it's so hard to connect in real ways. But I want to tell you, you are never alone. You're never alone. I know what it's like to feel alone. I want to tell you, you're never alone. We will never be able to carry each other's burdens if we don't actually step into people's lives, step into people's pain, step into people's houses. You know, sometimes it's so easy to show up on a Sunday and just go through the motions. It's different to come to church and engage in relationship. It's different to come to church and get connected. And one of the best ways that we can get connected is through our connect groups. And I want to encourage you today, after the service, go into our foyer. We have some amazing groups that are launching this week, and it's going to be amazing. And I want to encourage you, get connected in a connect group. That's one of the best ways that we can start to fight against the pain and fight together against what's happening in our world, in our lives, in our houses, in our inside of each and every one of us. You know, if it wasn't for the groups in this church, I honestly don't know. For the groups and ministries in this church, I honestly don't know if I would still be around. Some of you know my story. I've been in this church my entire life. And if it wasn't for the groups and ministries, I would not be here. This church has helped me overcome some of life's toughest moments, helped me through some of the most painful memories, and helped me overcome some crazy things in my life. And I'm so grateful for this church. And I want to tell you, if that can happen for me, if I can find freedom, peace, and joy and hope here, so can you. You can find hope in this place. You can find peace you're looking for in this place. We need to stop fighting alone and start fighting together. And we do that through connecting with people in real ways. We need to start connecting in real ways, or we're going to lose the battle. This is something Jesus always did. Pastor David talked about this a couple weeks ago. Jesus engaged in people's lives before he tried to carry their burden. He always stepped into people's lives before he tried to carry their burden. We need to do the same. We need to create meaningful relationships with good people. And I say good people because I think some of us are connected to the wrong people. And when we're connected to the wrong people, that's going to tear us down. That's not going to be able to build us up. We need to get around people who will build us up rather than tear us down. People who will encourage us, call us out into our future. That's who we need to get around. People who will sit with us in our pain and help pull us out. People who will help us through life's hardest moments. People who encourage us when the world is falling apart around us. Do you have someone in your life like that? You know, this is what I think about. Like, do I have someone in my life who will encourage me and love me and build me up? We talked about it last week. To carry the burden of my pain. Do I have someone in my life? And one question I ask myself is, am I willing to be that person? Am I willing to step into other people's pain? Because I'm going to tell you, stepping into other people's pain is a painful experience. Because not only are they going through it, now you're going through it together. And that's hard, and it takes strong people. But I want to tell you, we have the strength inside of us to carry the burdens of this church. We have the strength inside of us to carry the burdens of humanity. Because Jesus lives inside of us. You know, I get pretty nervous meeting new people. It's just one thing kind of about me. So when it comes to this whole thing, it's something that I do struggle with. And so when I was 19 years old, I went to a place called Youth with a Mission in Los Angeles, California. And I went to this base, and there's probably 200 people living on this base. And I did not know a single person. My mom dropped me off said bye, and I'm just standing there like with my bags, like in a movie. And I'm like, I don't know anyone. Why am I here? Like, why am I in California? It's like nice outside, but I don't know anybody. And so literally, my base directors literally thought that I was going to book the next flight out and go home. And it's true, because I wouldn't talk to anybody. And this is like a group of like Christian people, so they're all like so excited to talk to me, like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm fine, like, please leave me alone. So they thought I was gonna book the next flight out. I like sit alone in the courtyard drinking tea, because for me, meeting new people is not a strength of mine. It's not something I'm good at, but I've had to learn to let people in. I've had to learn to engage in relationship, to learn how to be real about what I'm going through with people, rather than just trying to fight through the toughest battles alone. I've had to learn to go to Jesus with my pain too. What is interesting is I find a lot of people are afraid to go to Jesus with their struggles. People are afraid to go to him with their pain, with their addiction, all of it. We're afraid to go to him because I think we're afraid of judgment. We're afraid that he's going to judge us, that we're afraid of feeling guilt or feeling shame. Yet Jesus already knows. He was there when we were knit together. He was there in our most beautiful moments. He was also there in our most painful memories. He was there in the midst of every chaotic moment as well as every beautiful moment. He knows what we're going through. Yet we're so afraid to go to him with what we're walking through. He knows the mistakes you've made. He knows the sins that you have. He knows. But we need to go to him and give him everything. Say, God, I give you all of this. He wants to carry the burden for you. That's why he went to the cross. We can read it in Matthew chapter 11. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. That's one of my favorite verses. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Jesus came to give you rest. He came to carry your burden. But we have to go to him first. We have to come to him. We have to allow him to carry our burden, to carry our hurt, to carry our trauma. We have to give it to him. Give him the most painful memories. He's a gentleman. He will never force you to give it up. But when we do, we will experience the peace, experience the freedom we're desperately looking for when we go to him with our pain. We all need rest. We need rest physically, mentally, spiritually. We need rest in our lives, and we have to have rest from life and from the pain we're experiencing. And Jesus came to take that burden. He came to take that from you, saying, come to me, I will give you the rest you're desperately looking for. Now, I don't know where you are in your faith journey, but what I do know is that Jesus understands what you're walking through. He understands the giants in front of you. He understands the things that you're walking through today. He understands the pain you're feeling. He knows. We oftentimes say things like, I'm strong enough. I can handle this. I don't need help. And I think those statements, especially for men, seem to get in the way. Now I'm going to ask for a show of hands. How many of you men have had a task that required more than one person and you did it all by yourself? Anyone ever do that? I think most of us have done that, right? And it's probably like today we did that. You know, like we need like to do something with people. And have you guys ever seen on Facebook that why women live longer than men? You guys ever seen any of those photos? Well, I have some photos I want to show you today about this. And maybe you've done some of this stuff. Let's see the first photo. Look at this. There's nothing safe about that. There's nothing, like he's not even going to get like a straight line. But he should have probably asked for help, but he did not ask for help. And this is why women live longer than men. Let's get the next one. This is just not what you want to do. If you can see that. Might be hard to see, but they got the wall painted though, am I right? Like, let's see the next one. That one, it just blows my mind. He might die. He very well may have actually. Let's see the next one. Whoa, I don't even know how you get yourself into that situation. Like that's some boldness to even just walk that way. But he changed the light bulb, so maybe. See the next one? This is my favorite one by far. You see he has a ride-on mower on a crane and he's mowing. Like, first of all, that guy's a genius, really. Like, what a wise human being to do that. Anyway, so that would be why women live longer than men. Those reasons. And I do this all the time too. There's this one event we did here where we had to bring up some couches from the basement. And we were doing an event out in the foyer, and we got all the couches back downstairs. I come back up, and there's one couch left. And I'm by myself. And I'm like, I can do that. So I honestly still think it's a miracle. I somehow managed by myself to get the couch from upstairs into the basement all by myself. Yeah. You probably shouldn't clap for me because that's probably not a good thing. I also didn't put holes in the wall though, so that was also, our building manager was pumped. He's like, wow, there's no holes. Nice. But we need to learn to ask for help in life. We need to learn to ask for help. We need to learn that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not have the answers. It's okay to not be strong enough. It's okay. But what's not okay is trying to carry that weight all by yourself. It's not okay to pretend everything is okay. We need to learn to step out in vulnerability, saying, I'm not okay and I need help. I need support in this moment. I need someone to pray with me. I need someone to sit with me. I need someone to talk to. It's okay to need help. We need to admit that. And that's so hard for us to admit that we need help. But we need to learn that we need help. We cannot go through life alone. The battles you're fighting, you don't have the strength to fight through them alone. We might think we do, but you never will win that battle by yourself. We need to realize we can't handle the pressure of life alone. We need to allow people into our mess, allow people into our pain, and we need to step into other people's pain. That way we carry the burden together, no longer alone. We need to allow Jesus into those moments too. And that's one of the harder things to do. As part of this kind of series, this campaign, we've been doing takeaways every week. And at youth, we call them toasty takeaways because they're toasty like toast. It's not really funny, but anyway, this is the takeaway. It says, you were not created to carry your burdens alone. Rather, we were created to carry them together. You were not created to carry what you're walking through alone. We were created to fight together, fight for peace, fight for hope together. That way we can start to find the freedom we're desperately looking for together, not alone. We need to start fighting together. We were created to carry our burdens together. Our strength comes from connection to humanity and connection to our Father. That's where our strength comes from. I'm telling you, you do not have enough strength inside of you to overcome what you're walking through. But when we come together, we can fight together and we can experience the peace we need in those moments. And this is harder than it looks. It's so hard to be real. It's hard to step into people's lives because, again, it takes strength to step into people's pain. It takes courage to say, you know what? I'm going to step into your life and I'm going to carry that burden with you. I'm going to be with you until things change. I'm going to sit with you. I'm going to pray with you until something happens. That takes courage and that takes time. It takes strength. But that's what we're called to do, not just for us in this church, but for our city, for our community, for our country, to step into people's lives. This is something I'm not good at. I'm not good at being real with my emotions. I'm not good at sharing how I'm feeling and what I'm going through. But I'm learning that freedom comes when I'm real and honest, when I'm vulnerable. That's where freedom comes. When we start taking our most broken parts from darkness into the light, that's where we find the freedom we're looking for. It comes when we're vulnerable. It comes when we're transparent with our lives, with the people who love us the most. I want to pray for us today when it comes to carrying each other's burdens, because again, this is not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do, but this is what we're supposed to do. This is the way we fulfill the law of Christ. It's not easy. As you saw earlier, we as a church, we love to pray for some of the deepest needs in our community publicly, as well as celebrate the amazing things that God is doing in our community. We do this every week. And we do this because we know that when we come together in challenging times, rather than doing it alone, that's where we find the breakthrough we're looking for, together. But I want to encourage you just to stand with me, and I'm just going to pray for us. As we go on and continue to learn how to carry each other's burdens, I know it's hard, but I know that with God's strength, we can do this together. We can carry the burdens of the city together, and we can love people the way that they're supposed to be loved. God, I thank you that today we start to carry the burdens of our community together. God, I pray that you give us the courage we need to be vulnerable. The courage we need to share what's really going on, to share what we're actually walking through. And also, God, give us the courage to step into people's lives, to not be afraid. To not be afraid because people are different, because they believe differently, they live differently. God, help us walk in love and step into people's lives and connect with people in real ways. As we go this week, God, I pray that you help us carry each other's burdens in real ways. God, help us be real and open and transparent. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, maybe today you've never made a decision to say, Jesus, I give you my life. I want to give you that opportunity today to say, you know what, this burden I'm carrying all by myself, I can't do it alone anymore. You know, again, I don't know where you are in your faith journey, but I want to tell you that Jesus is there. All we have to do is come to him, and he will start carrying the burden with us. So I want to give you an opportunity to pray that prayer. Say, Jesus, I give you my life. You can even just do that right now, wherever you're standing. Say, Jesus, just whisper that. Jesus, I give you my life. Jesus, I give you my life. You know, this would be the start of a journey with him. And there's a lot more that you and him are going to need to talk about. But we can just right now, in this moment, by yourself, just pray that prayer. Jesus, I give you my life. I give you my life. Freedom comes when we bring him in. You know, if you prayed this prayer for the first time today, Jesus, I give you my life, I want to pray for you because I'm so excited that you're giving him all that you are. You're giving him the broken parts of who you are, the most painful parts of who you are. I would love to pray for you. So at this time, just ask us all to bow our heads and close our eyes. And if you prayed that prayer, Jesus, I give you my life today for the first time, I want you to just muster up all the courage you have inside of you and put up your hand so I can pray for you, so I can celebrate with you. Thank you for that hand over there. Is there anyone else? So good, right over there. Yes, so good. Anyone else? Yeah. So good. God, we thank you that today we're entering into relationship with you. We're giving you all that we are, the most painful parts of who we are, the best parts of who we are. We give them to you today. God, we surrender our lives to you, saying, God, fix me. Carry my burdens. I can't do this alone. And God, I thank you for each person in here who prayed that prayer today for the first time. God, we thank you for their courage. We thank you for their vulnerability and stepping into relationship with you. In Jesus' name, amen.